Hi Brooke,
Hello, Tom.
good to be with you.
Yes, you too.
And today looking at the topic of why people say no to good things. Have you said no to anything recently?
I'm actually really bad at saying no to things.
Yes.
Let's be honest. I often will say yes to things that I should say no to, and I say no to things that I should say yes to. So I am journeying, just like everybody else, trying to figure out when to say yes, when to say no.
I think often if people approach us,
Yep.
like people come to our door or people intercept us in the shopping centre, that's a time when we usually say no thanks. We don't even hear what they have to say. We often want to be the one taking the initiative, but sometimes we might miss out on good opportunities if we say no to everything. So how do we know when there's something that somebody presents that might be a bit outside our usual way of thinking? And saying yes to that could be opening up a whole new avenue we hadn't explored.
Yeah, true.
Let's explore that question. Brooke, sometimes I know something is going to be a good experience or something that's going to grow me, but I might say no to it because of all sorts of emotions within me, a stubbornness, a sense of resisting what could happen, because I prefer to be comfortable than to be growing.
Yep.
Can you relate?
Absolutely. We often will find ourselves kind of curious about things, but because it's not what we know, or because we haven't seen somebody go that way before, we'll just hedge a little bit and hold back. And unfortunately, though, that doesn't necessarily give us that experience like Peter stepping out on the boat. Like, the amazing thing is that he actually stepped out and he got to see something of what Jesus could do. But if we actually always just stay in our comfort zone, that's not really going to show us those good things, is it?
Well, often we go along with the crowd.
Yep.
Very rarely are we the ones that will be the one taking the step.
Yep.
And we'll just go along because everyone else is doing it. I've had that many times where I don't particularly want to go that place. I don't particularly want to stay up later, but
Yep.
people I'm with are doing it.
Yep.
We go along.
Yeah.
But making our own choices sometimes leads to a better result, and people often go with us when we do decide to stand up.
Yeah. Especially, I would bring it in then to the space of, well, what path are we wanting to strike off onto? Is it a path that we can be pretty sure is going to take us to good places? I think that's where we need to practice a bit of discernment too, isn't it? Because sometimes we can get in our heads that actually I want to go this way and everybody else is going that way, and it might actually be good counsel encouraging us not to take that different path. So I think we need to discern very carefully, is the path that I want to take different in a good way, or is it actually taking me a little bit of a bad way?
And sometimes there's a healthy skepticism involved, or unhealthy, but we are often skeptical of people who want us to get involved in something for various reasons. And I spoke to Michael from Compassion, and he just shares briefly about objections people have to supporting Compassion.
Look, there's millions of people living in extreme poverty around the world, but the ones who are affected the most, the ones who are the most vulnerable, are children. Children don't get a say as to whether they're born into poverty or not. They're just born into it.
So if somebody sponsors a child, what does that do for that child?
Absolutely. So for people sponsoring a child, they give $48 a month, and that goes towards that child attending the program at the local church. They're going to get a meal every time they're there. They're going to make sure that their family has food security. They're going to get access to medical care that their family couldn't afford before. They're going to get supported with their education, and they're going to get mentored right through from a young age through to when they're teenagers, when they're able to perhaps go to university, get a vocational trade.
So why wouldn't you get involved in something like that? But there must be people with some hesitancy or objections, questions they come to you with.
Absolutely.
What are some of those?
Yeah, look, sometimes people come and say, look, how do I know that this trial is real? How do I know the money gets there? First of all, I'll say Compassion's been around for over 60 years, so it has a long-standing history of doing amazing work, accredited by governments all around the world in ensuring that happens. And we have thousands pre-COVID, and we will again post-COVID, have thousands and thousands of sponsors who go and visit their children every year. And so anyone who sponsors a child can visit their child, can visit the project, can see it all in work. You'll even get to go there and actually see them open up the books, and they'll show you where the money's spent and how it's spent. It's completely transparent. And so for a lot of people, they go, how do I know that's real? But there's thousands of people who've seen it and who can see it all around the world. Due to COVID, for the first time since 1998, extreme poverty numbers are rising. They're going back up again because of the impacts of COVID. In our Compassion program, we've got the highest number ever of unsponsored children waiting for a sponsor. And so I'd say to you, it might be a challenge, it might be a stretch for you, but for the child, it's absolutely life-changing. It will change their life.
Michael shared that people have doubts about whether an organisation or a group of people is really doing what they say they're going to do. It can be hard to trust that people really are there for what they say they're there for. And if we look at God's call on us, God's call to us, can we trust that? Is this Christianity thing real? And often there are reasons to be skeptical, reasons to say no thanks, not for me. And I think often we don't process those reasons. We just get this gut feeling and respond out of that. If people are pushing things down our throat, I think we don't want to, we sort of get our backs up against that. But I think there's another side to it.
Yeah.
That if we feel like, wow, what is this going to mean for me if I do really start to explore this? It can be something that is uncomfortable, confronting.
I think, we do have doubts and fears. I mean, we are all the same in that way. We all kind of question things. We all have that check before you enter kind of mentality, and some of us more than others. And I think that whole thing of, can you trust it? That's a big deal. And I think one of the things that we have to remember is that if we are feeling the call of God on our life, and we're feeling like He wants to give His love into us, which absolutely He does for every single person. So if we're actually feeling that and we're not sure if we can trust it, we'll need to process then what is it in us that is making us question that.
Sometimes no's can turn into yeses.
Yes.
Yeses can turn into no's.
No.
And sometimes we've got to wrestle with things, and it's okay to shift around a bit initially.
Yeah, and I love actually just reading in James this week. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, and He will give generously without finding fault. So He is so keen to help us know who He is. He's not going to hide Himself away. He's not going to trick us. He's not going to play games with us. He really just wants us to know His love.
Sometimes it's not much that decides whether we say yes or no. We can be quite flippant at times, and not give things much thought. But I do encourage you, when it comes to the invitation of God, to take some time to really think about it. We don't have to rush this decision. And rather than, we might walk past the first opportunity, but I think if it's real, there's repeated opportunities to say yes. Brooke, have you had any stories of where you've taken the time to really process what you feel God's calling you to do?
Yeah, and sometimes it can really stop you in your tracks, and you really can't think about anything else. And the thing I have found though is that whenever I am processing something that God's inviting me into, or asking me to really deal with honestly before Him, I can actually go, I don't need that particular bad thing in my life anymore. Like the need to control everyone and everything around me. I don't need that anymore. And I've got to say, it was it was such a gentle undoing, even though in the moment it felt like my whole world was kind of shaking. My thing is just to say, yeah, God really does lead us gently when he asks us to take a step of faith, and he doesn't like take us to that point to say yes and then go, well, you're on your own now.
Yeah.
He walks with us. He is the gentle shepherd, and he brings people around us too if we ask. He gives, and he's just so faithful.
It is a step of faith.
Yeah.
And it's right that, it can make us feel a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But it's a step that, I think we don't have to do alone.
No.
So an invitation, you can say yes or no to it. You can take your time to process, but we have the option of doing this together. We have Zoom calls throughout the week, and we can really wrestle with this together. Maybe it's God you feel. Maybe he's trying to get your attention. We're here to help you explore that. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.